The CEO showed up without a suit, and that was all it took for her to decide he didn't belong. She didn't check his name. She didn't ask a single question, but she learned the truth the hard way, right in front of everyone. Gregory Wynn didn't usually take his phone on morning jogs. He liked to disconnect, let his mind wander, let the early air cut through the static of a high-powered life. But this wasn't a usual morning. He kept one hand near his waistband pocket, where the phone buzzed with urgency. Savannah was already heating up, the scent of salt in the wind, and the cracked sidewalk on Oglethorpe Avenue pushed back with every stride. Gregory wasn't thinking about the burn in his calves or the sting of sweat rolling past his temples. His mind was circling numbers, dates, timelines. A property across from an old train station, once undervalued, now a gem in the making, was about to hit a deadline, and he needed to move fast. He checked his watch. 8:17 a.m. Not much time. The bank opened at 8:30. He turned on Abercorn Street and slowed into a walk, reaching for a small towel tucked under his hoodie. On any other day, he might have headed home first. Showered, changed, put on the sharp charcoal suit with cufflinks. But not today. Time mattered more than looks. His sneakers crunched lightly over gravel as he made his way past a mural of Guller heritage painted on a side wall that a few heads turned. Passers-by gave the slightest glance. Nothing new that he wiped his face again and caught his reflection in the glass of a parked car. Navy pullover. Faded black running pants. Clean but casual. He looked regular. That was the point. Gregory didn't care for theatrics. He hadn't worn a tie in 6 months. Not since he moved the bank's southern operations from Miami to Savannah to be closer to his late mother's hometown, as she'd always told him, "Don't dress for the room. Let the room dress for you." At 47, with 2 decades of financial leadership behind him and his name stamped on thousands of Sovereign Unity Bank brochures, Gregory had learned the value of silence, of knowing when to speak and when to wait. He rounded the corner onto East Congress Street, just 2 blocks from the bank. His assistant Simone was parked out front already, working on her iPad with the AC humming through the cracked window. She gave a little wave as he approached. "Paperwork's ready?" she said through the glass. "All of it signed and sealed." Gregory gave a nod, then headed for the glass doors. The building itself was modest. A modern renovation in the heart of a city known for its ghosts and gardens. The Sovereign Unity Bank logo was etched in gold foil across the window, above the words, "Built for everyone." He pulled the door open. Inside, the air was sharp and cold, like it always was. Banks loved reminding people they weren't at home. 2 tellers. One older man near the UTS, a woman in heels flipping through a pamphlet. Behind the counter, a tall woman in a burgundy pantsuit stepped forward, eyeing him. That was when Gregory first felt it. The stare, the quick scan from head to toe. He gave a polite smile. "Good morning." He said that I need to make a withdrawal. "Large amount. Should be in my file, Gregory Wynn." She didn't respond immediately. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and she crossed her arms. "Oh, you have an appointment?" she asked flatly. "No, but it's urgent. My credentials are on file." The woman didn't move. "What kind of withdrawal are we talking about?" Gregory stayed calm. "High 6 figures. Paperwork was submitted yesterday. The transaction scheduled to today. Simone Jenkins is waiting outside with the signed forms." She blinked once, then twice. "I'm the branch manager here, Lisa Edmonds. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to need ID. I also need to call in for authorization." Gregory paused. "Call who exactly?" She looked past him. "Head office." He studied her face for a moment. Something had shifted. "Something colder than policy. Ma'am," he said evenly. "You do understand I am the head office." But Lisa Edmonds wasn't listening, and the next thing she said would flip the entire room upside down. Lisa Edmonds didn't flinch. If anything, she straightened her shoulders a little higher, like she was preparing for a confrontation she thought she could win. "I'm sorry," she said louder this time. "I don't care who you say you are. I can't just hand over that kind of money because a man walks in off the street in running shoes." Her voice carried, bouncing off the marble floors and polished glass. The woman near the pamphlet froze. The man at the 8 turned to watch. Gregory felt the heat rise. Not from anger, but from the sudden attention. "And I'm not asking you to hand over anything," he said carefully. "I'm asking you to verify my credentials. My name is Gregory Wynn. You have my biometric data, multiple staff recognitions, voice access. Use any one of them." Lisa smirked. "That you're telling me you're Gregory Wynn," she said, voice dripping with disbelief. The CEO of Sovereign Unity? And you came here to make $1 million withdrawal in joggers? He didn't answer. She raised an eyebrow. That's cute, she said. Then she turned to one of the younger tellers, a girl with straight blonde hair pulled tight into a bun. Alicia, can you alert security? Quietly, Gregory took a slow breath. He turned slightly, glancing at the other customers. They weren't speaking, but they weren't looking away either. I'm going to give you one last chance, he said, voice still calm. My assistant is outside. She has the paperwork that I don't need to be spoken to like I'm trespassing in a building I own. Lisa crossed her arms tighter. You don't look like someone who owns a bank. That one stung more than it should have. Not because he hadn't heard it before, but because of how comfortably she'd said it. Gregory didn't raise his voice, that he didn't step closer. He just looked her square in the eyes. I've hired over 2,000 people. He said that I've worked my way through mergers, market crashes, and federal audits. I built this institution with transparency, diversity, and decency as its pillars. If you don't believe me, that's fine, but every camera in this building is recording this conversation, and you are violating protocol right now. Lisa tilted her head slightly, but didn't budge. Then you should have no problem stepping outside, she said. While we get this sorted, he let out a short breath. I'll step outside, he said slowly, but only because I don't want this escalating. Too late for that, Lisa muttered, then nodded toward the back. Security's coming. He turned and walked out, not saying another word. Outside, the morning was already warmer. Gregory blinked into the sun, jaw clenched. Simone looked up from the passenger seat, concerned. What happened? She thinks I'm pretending to be me. Simone's brow furrowed. She opened the glove box, grabbed the file folder, and got out of the car. She didn't even check the system? Nope. Called for security. She's gonna regret that, Simone said flatly. They walked back in together. Inside, security had arrived. A stocky man in his 50s with a badge clipped to his belt and a look that said he already hated paperwork. Lisa pointed immediately. That's him. The guard blinked. Who? Gregory lifted a hand. I'm Gregory Wynn. CEO. I'm not here to cause trouble, Lisa cut in. He says that, but he refused to show ID, and here's the paperwork, Simone said, stepping forward and placing it gently on the counter. Signed, approved, scheduled for this morning's withdrawal. Look at the signature, then look at him. Lisa glanced at the document, paused, then reached for it. Her eyes moved across the page, and then something shifted. Her posture, her mouth. Simone didn't flinch. You do realize what you've done, right? Lisa tried to recover. I was just doing my job. That we have procedures. Your job, Gregory said quietly, was to verify, not assume, but the already done. And what Gregory did next wasn't out of anger, but principle. There was a thick pause, not just silence. Pause. Like time was stalling to watch what Gregory Wynn would do next. That he didn't yell. He didn't puff out his chest. That was never his way. Instead, he stepped slightly to the side and let the moment breathe. The security guard, still unsure, scratched his head and looked between the manager and the man in running gear, holding executive clearance documents. Lisa Edmonds was stiff now. Her voice had lost some of its bite. Replaced by a tremble she tried to mask with control. I didn't know who you were, she said, forcing a polite tone. We've had incidents before. I had to follow my instincts. Gregory tilted his head. No, you followed your assumptions. The woman in heels near the pamphlet slowly put it back on the rack and took a step closer, not intruding, but close enough to listen openly. Gregory gestured calmly to the paperwork Simone handed over. My signature is there. The approval codes match. The funds were flagged by my office yesterday. Every bank branch manager in this district received the internal memo, including you. Lisa didn't respond. So I'll ask again, Gregory continued. What about me told you I wasn't who I said I was? She swallowed, the words catching somewhere deep in her throat. I didn't recognize you. Do you recognize every executive in the company? No, but... So you made a judgment. Now the older man, by the 18th moment, quiet until now, turned fully. His gaze was steady. He looked at Gregory, then back at Lisa. She did more than judge, he said in a low voice. She tried to humiliate you. Lisa shot him a look. Sir, this doesn't concern you. It does, he replied. Because if he hadn't had someone walk in with proof, what would have happened? You were about to call the police on a man for standing in line. The branch felt different now. A shift in the room. Like a lens had been cleaned. Lisa pressed her lips together and turned to Simone. May I speak to you in private? Simone didn't move. No, ma'am, she said. Everything that's happening now needs to stay in the open. Gregory checked his watch. He still had a deal to close, still had responsibilities larger than this room. But something in his gut told him this wasn't a moment to walk away from. I'll only say this once. Gregory said clearly, you don't treat people like this. Ever. I built this institution because I was tired of people like me being told we didn't belong in spaces we already owned. What you did today, it wasn't just disrespectful. It was dangerous. Lisa stiffened. I didn't mean. You didn't need to mean it. Simone cut in. It's in how fast you moved to suspicion. It's in how loudly you tried to assert control. That's the part you need to look at. The guard shifted his weight. Awkward now. Do you need me to call HQ? He asked Gregory quietly. No, Gregory said, pulling out his phone. I'll do it myself. He stepped aside, tapped once, and brought the phone to his ear. The conversation was short. A few words. A pause. Another response. Then he hung up and turned back to Lisa. You'll be contacted by HR within the hour, he said simply. Effective immediately. You're relieved of duty. You are not to interact with customers, access files, or remain in this building past the next 30 minutes. Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The woman near the pamphlets whispered, wow. The man at the 8 nodded slowly. Been a long time coming. Gregory didn't gloat, didn't smirk. He simply looked her in the eye. You weren't just rude. You were reckless. But even after firing her, Gregory still had more to say. And what came next wasn't about her at all. Lisa didn't move. Her hands were shaking slightly now, still clinging to the edge of the counter like it was holding her up for a moment. She looked like she might say something. Apologize. Explain, but the words never came. Gregory turned his attention to the young teller. Alicia, can you please process the withdrawal using the documentation provided? He asked gently. Alicia hesitated. She looked toward Lisa, then back to Gregory, then slowly nodded. Yes, sir. I just need a few minutes to enter the codes. Her voice was small, like she wasn't used to being heard. Gregory took a step back. He wasn't about to stand over her. Simone stood beside him, arms folded, eyes forward. She hadn't spoken again, but the energy around her was clear. She was furious, but too professional to show it outright. I'm sorry, Alicia added quietly. About all that, Gregory nodded. Thank you. Across the lobby, the man by the 8 picked up his receipt and walked over. He was about 60, maybe older, dressed in worn khakis and a short-sleeved button-up with a Georgia Bulldogs pin clipped to the collar. He leaned toward Gregory, speaking just loud enough to be heard. Don't let it eat at you, he said. She did wrong. No question. But you held your ground the right way. With class. A lot of folks wouldn't have had that kind of restraint. Gregory smiled faintly. It's not about restraint, he said. It's about clarity. The man nodded slowly. My name's Melvin Banks, he said, offering his hand. Been banking here 25 years. Never seen anything like that. I'm glad I did. Gregory shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Mr. Banks. Then he walked a few steps away, letting Alicia do her work. His phone buzzed again. Another update from the acquisitions team. He ignored it. He glanced at Simone. You okay? She exhaled through her nose. I wanted to throw that binder at her head. Gregory cracked a smile. Would have been a lawsuit. We need you too much for that. Simone shook her head, half laughing. I've been working for you for 6 years. Not once have I seen someone be that dismissive, that bold, that sure she was right while being dead wrong. He looked past her at the glass wall of the bank, where the reflection showed Lisa still standing by the counter. You know what gets me, he said. She didn't even think to check, because she thought she already knew, Simone replied. Gregory nodded. That's the part people don't want to admit, that sometimes what you think is just instinct is really a bad habit dressed up like certainty. Alicia raised her hand slightly. Sir, I have your transaction ready for final authorization. He walked back over and verified it with a simple code. A code only 3 people in the company had access to. Done, Alicia said. Your funds will be available for transfer in the next 15 minutes. Perfect, Gregory said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a slim money clip, and slid a $100 bill across the counter. For you, Alicia's eyes widened, sir. I can't accept that. You can. And you should, because you handled this better than people twice your age and rank. She took it, unsure, but grateful. Lisa was still standing there, as if waiting for someone to undo what had been said. Gregory finally turned to her one last time. You know what you could have done differently? He asked. She looked up, eyes glassy. You could have asked one more question. That's all it would have taken. But now that the withdrawal was handled, Simone had something to say, and her words hit harder than anything Gregory had said so far. Simona turned toward Lisa like she'd been holding something in since the moment they walked in. And now, with the transaction processed and the silence thick enough to snap, she didn't bother lowering her voice. You ever been dismissed like that? She asked Lisa, direct. Lisa blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I mean, has anyone ever looked at you, decided they knew everything they needed to know in half a second, and treated you like a problem just for walking through a door? Lisa didn't answer. Simone kept going. Her tone wasn't angry, just plain and measured. You know why I'm asking? Lisa glanced around as if trying to locate some backup in the room. There was none. You treated him like a threat. Simone continued. Didn't matter what he said. Didn't matter how calmly he said it. You decided before he got a full sentence out. I made a mistake, Lisa muttered. No, Simone corrected. You made a choice. That's different. Gregory said nothing. He let Simone speak because he knew this wasn't about venting. It was about holding someone accountable in a way she'd remember. Lisa didn't look up. Alicia kept her eyes on the screen in front of her, pretending to click something, but her cheeks were flushed. Even the security guard leaned on the wall with his arms crossed, watching like he knew what he was witnessing was overdue. Gregory finally stepped in again, this time quieter. Your employment status has already been flagged. You'll be contacted before noon. I've made arrangements for an interim manager until we evaluate internal replacements. Lisa opened her mouth to object, but Gregory cut her off. This isn't a grudge, it's a liability issue now. He wasn't just saying it for her benefit. The other staff needed to hear it too. Everyone in that building needed to know the rules weren't bendable depending on who was standing at the counter. You represent more than just a paycheck, he added. You represent trust. And today you shattered that. Lisa's face fell completely. Any fire she'd had at the start was gone. I didn't mean for it to go that way. She whispered that I really didn't. Simone shook her head. Then why did you double down after he told you who he was? No reply. Gregory reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. He flipped to a contact page, jotted down a name, tore it out, and handed it to Lisa. You're going to get a call today. But before that, I suggest calling this number. He said, her name's Dr. Deandra Solis. She runs implicit training workshops out of Charleston. Not mandatory, just think about it. Lisa took the paper like it was heavier than it was. I'm not a bad person, she said. Bad people rarely think they are, Simone replied. Gregory looked at her, then back at Lisa. I don't think you're evil, he said plainly. But I do think you forgot who you were supposed to be the moment you felt uncomfortable, and that's something you'll have to live with. Not us. He turned toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and the next time someone tells you who they are, maybe listen. Then he walked out. Just like that. No scene, no drama, just purpose. Simone followed, and as the door swung open, the woman who'd been browsing the pamphlets all along finally spoke up. Damn, she said. That was the quietest takedown I've ever seen. Melvin Banks chuckled. About time someone like her got reminded who signs the checks. But outside the bank, as they reached the car, Simone asked a question Gregory hadn't expected, and it pulled something deeper out of him. As they reached the car, Simone didn't open the door right away. She leaned against it, still holding the now empty folder, and looked at Gregory with a long pause. You ever get tired of this? She asked quietly. He knew what she meant. Not the morning, not the confrontation, not the fallout. She meant this. The entire loop. The constant pressure to stay composed, the second-guessing of everyday encounters, the knowledge that one misstep could cost more than dignity. Gregory didn't answer right away. He watched a city bus slow to a stop at the corner. An older man stepped off with a lunchbox in hand. Just another day in Savannah. Just another man trying to handle his business. Then he turned to Simone. Yeah, he said softly. I do, but not enough to stop showing up. She nodded, her expression unreadable. I meant what I said in there, she replied. You held that with more grace than most people would have. I've seen VPs lose their minds over missing a salad dressing on their catered lunch. Gregory laughed a little, but it was dry. I've seen worse, he said. You know how many times I've had to explain who I am in my own conference room? He looked up toward the top of the bank building, where the Sovereign Unity logo was reflected in the morning light, that I built this company from a folding table in a one-bedroom apartment in Shreveport. 23 years old, $7,000 in savings, and a beat-up Dell laptop. I wasn't trying to start a revolution. I just wanted folks like my mother to be able to walk into a bank and not feel like they were being sized up for a loan they already deserved. Simone listened, arms crossed now. She used to tell me. He continued, every system is built with mirrors. Some people get to see themselves reflected. Some people just see glass. He rubbed his hands together, not from cold, but from memory. First time I pitched a merger, I got told to wait in the hallway. They thought I was the guy delivering sandwiches. You serious? Dead serious. That was in Dallas. And after I closed the deal, the same guy came back and asked if I could train his team. Simone let out a low whistle. So this today, she said. Just another Tuesday. No, Gregory said, finally opening the car door. This wasn't just another Tuesday. This was personal. Because I could have ignored it, could have walked out, called legal, let them handle it. But then what? He paused, then turned to her. She'd do it to the next person. Maybe someone younger, someone not as connected. And that person would walk out humiliated, doubting themselves. Maybe they'd stop coming back. That's how the cracks start. Simone got into the passenger seat and closed the door. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then she asked, you think she'll learn from this? Gregory exhaled. That's not my job to make sure. I did my part. The rest is up to her. They sat in the stillness of the car, engine off. Windows cracked just enough to let in the scent of pavement, warming under the sun. Finally, Simone broke the silence. You ever think about writing this all down? Not just the bank stuff. The journey, the why. He thought about it. For longer than she expected. Maybe someday, he said. But right now, I'm still writing it in real time. She smiled. Fair enough. Gregory glanced at his phone. The transfer notification had come through. Deal approved. Funds moved. Let's head over to Jenkins Realty. He said that they'll want the update in person. But just as he started the engine, Simone added one more thought, and it brought everything back full circle. Gregory's fingers were wrapped around the steering wheel, the engine humming low, when Simone spoke again. You know what sticks with me the most? She said. Not how she talked to you, but how sure she was that she was right. Gregory kept his eyes on the road ahead. She wasn't guessing. Simone went on. She had certainty. And that scares me more than anything else. Because how many other people walk around with that kind of certainty and authority? Gregory didn't respond right away. He eased the car onto East Broughton, passing small shops, brick walls, sun-bleached from decades of southern heat. She thought she was protecting the bank. He said finally. What she didn't realize is that she was the threat. Simone turned her gaze out the window, watching the buildings roll by. I get that people make mistakes, she said, but that wasn't a mistake. That was instinct unchecked. That was a reflex, Gregory nodded. She saw a black man in joggers and didn't take a second breath before assuming he didn't belong. That's not about policy. That's conditioning. He paused, then added, and it's deeper than her. They pulled up to a red light. To the right, a group of high school students waited for a bus, joking, pushing each other playfully. One of them looked almost exactly like Gregory did at 17. Tall, lean, wide-eyed, still figuring the world out. Gregory watched them for a second longer than he needed to. I think about them a lot, he said. The ones coming behind us. What kind of world are we leaving them to walk into? What do they inherit when we don't speak up? Simone followed his eyes. I hope they inherit more men like you, she said. He looked at her, not smiling exactly, but holding something steady in his expression. I'm not special, he said. I just refuse to accept the version of myself other people try to hand me. The light turned green. They kept driving, the bank now far behind them. But neither of them felt finished with what had happened. After a few more blocks, Gregory pulled into the lot behind Jenkins Realty, put the car in park, and turned to Simone. You know, he said, it's easy to talk about change. A lot harder to make it a habit. This place, he motioned back toward the bank, was supposed to be built on doing things differently, but that only works when the people in through the walls believe in that difference. Simone leaned back in her seat. So what do we do now? He shrugged lightly. Same thing we always do. Show up, speak up, keep pushing. They sat in silence again, the kind that wasn't awkward, but full, heavy with meaning. Gregory reached for the door handle. You coming? Simone gave a slow nod. Wouldn't miss it. Before they stepped out, Gregory paused once more. Most people think power's in the money, he said, or the titles. But real power, It's in how you treat people when nobody's watching or when everybody is. They stepped out into the sun, and as they walked toward the building, you could almost feel the quiet strength in every step. Not loud, not dramatic, just right that it's easy to judge someone when you don't look twice. It's harder to face what that says about you. So the next time you see someone, ask yourself, are you seeing them? Or just reacting to what you think you see? And if you ever have to choose between assuming and asking, ask, always ask. If this story moved you or made you think about the way we treat each other in everyday spaces, share it. Let someone else hear it. And if you want more stories like this, real ones, the kind that challenge and connect, subscribe to the channel. We've got more coming.